One, start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Preston, if you could do the roll call.
Mayor Brungar,
Here.
Councilor Drebin.
Here.
Councilor Gilgan.
Here.
Councilor Goulart.
Present.
Councilor Newman. Sheila, are you there?
I don't think her audio is connected.
Sheila, are you there?
Okay, we
Sheila's
got
here.
a thumbs up wave from Sheila. She can hear us. We can't hear you, just so you know.
And Councilor Paulson,
Here.
you have 6 councilors present, Your Honor.
Great. All right, let's start with our report from the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office.
Well, good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the city for allowing us to use the old fire department this last month. We were able to do some training in those open bays. We don't have really any usable space to do some of the training that we need to do at the sheriff's office. So very appreciative that we were able to utilize that space to accomplish some training, which is always good for our staff. So hopefully you all have a copy of the report that I sent out earlier this week so that you would have time to look over it. I believe the total number of calls for service for the month of May was 282. However, in going through it, I removed a couple that were other agencies that came into town to do follow-up. So I have a 277 for a total for the month of May. If you look at I'm not sure what format maybe you printed out, but the way that it prints off for me, the first column where it says incident, that's just a number that gets assigned by our dispatch center so that we can track the incident itself or track the call. The next column would be a case number. So a lot of those you'll see there's not a number in that because we only have to take a case number to separately document when it's a reportable incident, which would be more in line with the previous reports that you've looked at that documents the reportables. The next column being the units, that shows what units by their radio call sign that were attached to any particular call. Then the priority level, what the call was initially coded as by dispatch, how they classify it. And then the very last column to the right would be the date and time of the call themselves. So they should be, for the most part, chronological. The very first one is one of those other agencies that did follow up in town. So it's out of sequence because of how the incident number gets assigned alphabetically. CTP is before M&S. So if you have any specific questions about the month report, I'll do my best to answer them.
The priority, is that assigned by dispatch or how's that?
It is assigned by dispatch based off of the information that they get from the caller.
Okay.
And how do these priorities, maybe Preston might answer this, but how do these priorities relate to part 1, part 2, and part 3 crimes on this other sheet? Because going from, going 277 and looking at 22, that's a huge difference. So I'm just curious.
So just breaking it down, I would think it kind of looks to me like the 22 down here total for Lafayette, those are the reportable offenses. So those are the ones that would have case numbers where they have all these calls, but they're not all reportable or something that would have a case number hooked to them, right?
That's in the simplest terms correct. The reportables and the crime classifications are just a way that we have to report information to the FBI that tracks crime statistics across the country. every law enforcement jurisdiction has to code and report uniform crime reports, UCRs. And so that's how they divide it up into part 1 offenses, part 2 offenses. And that really has no correlation to the priority unit or the priority number that's assigned by dispatch. That's more of a priority of when you have multiple calls going on, which one do you go to first? Will you go to a priority 1 call over a priority 3 or priority 4?
Right.
It's just a lesser significant call based off of the information that dispatch gets initially.
And, and maybe it's not a reasonable request, but I would like to know for the unit, the radio call sign, the unit number, what are our deputies? Does that change every day, or is it it's a specific number? Because I would like to know what our deputies, unit number is.
So they don't change, at least with the sheriff's office, our radio call sign stays with us all the time. So Deputy McMahon is 320. And Deputy Drury is 321.
Thank you.
So last month you said that this kind of report, you're just kind of starting to get able to process, or was this a different one that you were mentioning?
So this is a different one than what we are working on internally, obviously having in essence customers with other municipalities that contract for services. We are trying to get an enhanced report that would be consistent amongst all of those entities. The issue with creating that report for us internally right now is how do we track and mine that relevant data? Because the reason it's easy for me in Lafayette is there is no rural Lafayette. Every other city, you have rural Dayton, you have rural Amity, rural Sheridan. And so you have to delineate what's inside the city and what's outside the city when it comes to those. The reason I can do Lafayette in this format is only because if it's got a Lafayette address, it's in the city. So it's just kind of unique in that Lafayette is much simpler than all of the other areas that we provide services to.
Okay. So a follow-up for that. One thing, and I know these things would take some time, that I would like to see at some point is maybe an analysis of, I don't expect every one of these calls to be something that a deputy needs to be on duty for, but to look and say, hey, are most of the things that we're responding to overlapping with when our deputies are on their shift, or kind of an analysis to see, do we need to direct possibly different hours for different seasons? I know that scheduling is probably really hard to begin with, but just having some of that data to support, like, okay, we're doing well with scheduling, but maybe in the summer we need to shift the hours. And again, that takes some time to collect that data to really make data-driven decisions.
Sure.
But if we could start tracking that at some point, I'd be happy with
I'll have to look and see if I can create any sort of report that shows when the call time, the dates and times that they're happening, to look at time of day and what specific days. I believe that there'll be a way to do that. Just for, I guess, reference, right, the 2 deputies that are assigned here, they just switched their schedules last week for our kind of regular rotation that we've done in the city here. So Deputy McMahon moved to the day shift schedule. He's working Monday through Thursday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then Deputy Drury moved to the swing shift schedule, and he is working Wednesday through Saturday from 2 p.m. to midnight. And I will throw out there, I know I've already let Preston know about it. Deputy Drury is actually going to be taking some time. And so I have a deputy that's going to be coming in to fill that vacancy for the time period that he's gone. So you'll start to see Deputy Joshua Schmidt working 26 hours while Deputy Drury's out.
Thank you.
We'll say something that took me about 8 seconds to do was go through and circle their call numbers. So then you can see exactly which ones they're here and responding to and which ones. I mean, I did 4 pages in about 30 seconds here. I mean, that's really something that we could.
And we don't end, you know, if a call comes in and it's during one of the times when they're not on duty, we don't pen that call for the next time they are.
Right.
That's where you see all these other numbers. It's just a different on-duty deputy.
Who responded to that initial? Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So
And
it's-
I'm sorry, can you repeat Deputy McMahon's, his day shift hours?
7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Thank you.
Any other questions specific to the report?
Just a comment, I'm happy to see this report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. To touch on a few other things that came up in the last meeting that I was asked specifically about. I have been working my way through the code book that has all of the ordinance, well, this isn't even all of them, but the ordinances that the deputies here are enforcing. I'll probably have something in the next couple of weeks for Preston to review as far as updating and maybe clarifying some of the ordinances themselves from our perspective as far as enforceability. I know Deputy McMahon in particular has been working really hard on a very, very long list that he got from one of the residents that was here at the last meeting, specifically addressing some addresses in town. And then I know the vehicles on 3rd Street has been an issue that's come up multiple times. He was able to identify the owner of the ones that typically are right over here. It's a resident of the apartment in the building that lives there. There's no off-street parking for that residence at all. And so he's working with that owner. Obviously, everybody has to move by this weekend anyway because of the paving project. But he's working creatively to try to address that issue because the person lives there and they don't have it anywhere else to park. Some of the other ones, I know he's issued some citations this week, but some of that comes back to the ordinance and the way it's written. I would say in a best case scenario, if everything went as smoothly as possible, it would probably take about 10 days from initial time of call to being actually able to get a tow truck hooked up to it. So, and that's just based off the requirements of the ordinance. So.
So once you get clarification on the codes, is there anything preventing the deputies from seeing an issue and directly addressing that without having to go through any city administration?
No, I mean, they self-initiate stuff all the time.
Okay.
For ordinance. A lot of it is complaint driven, you know, they get the notifications that are hanging on the office door and they follow up on those, but they address stuff all the time that as they see it when they're driving around, they self-initiate that.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions for Sergeant Elliott?
I have just one question. Can this report be downloaded into the Excel format?
Yes.
So we could download this and then we could do our own calculating of who's on when and when things go on.
That's how it was submitted to.
Yeah, it looks like an Excel.
It's an Excel.
It's an
I
Excel.
was gonna
it's an
ask for an
Excel.
electronic version itself, because I'd like to be able to sort it. In any case, if that could be provided, that'd be great. Redacted version, I don't know. This is redacted, but I don't think the other one was.
Yeah, the one that I brought with me last month was not merit asked that the addresses be redacted, and so this version is redacted and has no addresses in it.
Yeah, we haven't seen the other version yet, I don't think. We're still waiting for that. Is that right, Preston? We're still waiting for that redacted version? Did we get it?
That's what
This is the redacted version. This is that report without the address.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, but he gave us month of April last month. This says May on it. So I was looking for the April redaction report that he submitted.
This format you're talking about.
He submitted a report in April. In the May meeting, he submitted the April report, but it was unredacted. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to have, this is one, I want both of them. That's what I'm
So
asking.
you
for.
want to see April, but in this redacted format.
Whatever format they
Just so we're
talking
clear.
about.
Well,
at the
yeah,
meeting.
I think last meeting you said you were gonna redact it, so we just haven't seen the April report since it was submitted.
I sent a redacted version the following day, so I can resend it to Preston and he can. just
Okay.
edit it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm hoping, I don't know if it'll probably be at the July to have an annual summary for you, so cover
Awesome.
the fiscal year. All right, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Sheila was having issues with her audio. Can we ensure before we move on?
Lee, did you have any questions for this? No. Sheila,
Thank you.
Sheila, are you still there?
I don't think she could ever hear us.
No, she
She can hear us.
She
We
was
can't hear
thinking
her.
she-
Hey, oh, I got thumbs up. Did you have any questions?
Nope.
Oh, we heard you.
Oh, you can hear me too. Yay.
Okay, good, perfect. We're moving on. Okay, approval of minutes. These are the meeting minutes from the May 13th city council meeting. Did everybody have a chance to review them? And are there any recommendations or suggestions for changes?
I reviewed it, I didn't find anything.
I don't believe I saw anything that stood out.
Lee, was that a no?
Looks good to me.
Okay, Sheila?
Looks good.
Okay. Bill? Okay. Well, if there's no changes, we would need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from the city council meeting on May 13th, 2021.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, additions or deletions from the agenda? Does anyone have anything they wish to add or remove from the agenda this month? Okay. Citizens input on non-agenda items. Does anyone from the public have anything they wish to say that is not on the agenda? Hillary, I see you're on Zoom. Did you have anything you wanted to comment to that is not on the agenda?
She's muted.
I see that. You're muted if you're talking. Okay. All right, hearing nothing, we'll move on. All right, our first agenda item is public hearings on the fiscal year 2022 budget. Let me get to that page. All right, this is the portion where we open up public hearings for public comment. There are two different hearings. The first one is for possible uses of state shared revenues. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public input on possible uses of state shared revenues, which are comprised of taxes from gas, cigarettes, liquor, and other shared revenues. Is there anyone who wishes to offer public comment on this? Going once. Going twice. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing of possible uses of state shared revenues. Now going to open the public hearing for the City of Lafayette budget fiscal year 2021-2022. The purpose of this hearing is to receive input on the proposed budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021. Any public comment on this fiscal year budget for 2021 and 2022?
Check, Your Honor, we never received any comments at that time.
Thank you. All right, seeing and hearing no public comment, I'm gonna go ahead and close this meeting. All right. Moving on to our action items. Our first action item is for an appointment of a mayor. I'd like to speak to this a bit. Forgive me if this is long. It's time we move on and start fulfilling this vacancy and any other vacancies and operating as a full council. I want to speak to the appointment process for a mayor. And that's because I want to be very transparent in how this played out and how I went about this before coming up with a recommendation of who I wanted to submit to the council as my appointment for mayor. On April 8th, the city council meeting, a vacancy was declared for the mayoral position. It followed the same process as every other vacancy declaration. A meeting was live streamed and posted for later viewing. The vacancy was reflected in the meeting minutes. It was added to the reader board outside of City Hall. It was advertised in the monthly newsletter, which is mailed to all households and posted on the city's website. And it was posted multiple times on social media. In the 2 months before moving forward with an appointment, I sat down and I made a list of desired qualities and experiences that I would want to see in a mayor. My list had 4 categories. They included absolutes. These are things that are required by the charter to be a mayor of the city. That includes being a registered voter and living in the city limits for a minimum of 1 year. My list also include preferred qualities, which are things that I would hope anybody would want to see in their mayor. They included things like a history of engagement with the community, diplomatic communication style with the public, being proactive in seeking facts rather than speculation, able to acknowledge and respect difference of opinion, and able to assume positive intent. On my list, I also had a category of required experience. These are things that I would expect for somebody who is wanting to sit as a mayor would have. They include things like attending a city council meeting, be knowledgeable in city affairs, have read and understood the city charter and council rules, understanding the Lafayette's government format, including the role of the mayor and the time commitment, and our mayor council form of government. It's somebody who would have demonstrated an ability to work diplomatically and respectfully with our city administrator and staff, regardless of differences. And someone who's able to meet the minimum time commitment of 3 to 6 hours a month meeting with the city administrator, 4 hours a month in city council meetings, and 4 to 6 hours a week responding to emails, returning phone calls, and addressing concerns. This is the time commitment as it's been for me. The desired work experience that I was hoping to see would be working with or volunteering on a Lafayette-based board committee or other public sector, have experience in working with consultants in projects and planning and designs, much like we will be with the urban growth renewal. We are currently with the SCI and with the fire district consolidation. Be familiar with the employment process and hiring of those in leadership positions, much like we do with the city administrator, assistant city administrator, public works, supervisor, fire chief. Be able to attend weekday meetings with other entities. There's a lot of meetings that go on throughout the work week, Monday through Friday, daytime hours, when a lot of people are working. And really amazing would be somebody who has experience as a city councilor or mayor, though that's certainly not a requirement. After coming up with my list, I asked the city for all the applicants that had anyone who had submitted an application or expressed interest in serving as the mayor. I called 6 people. Of those 6 people, 5 had applications submitted that had marked city council interest. 1 of them had verbally expressed interest in serving as the mayor. 1 person out of those 6 people I talked to withdrew. They stated that they were interested in a city council seat, not a mayoral position, stating that with no council experience, they did not feel it was appropriate to be mayor. Of the 5 remaining candidates, they were all asked the same questions in an interview. I'll go through all the questions, but it touched base on the understanding of the mayor's role, their experience in various committees, nonprofits, volunteer work. If they chose not to fill out an application, I asked them about their experience volunteering specifically in Lafayette, including both the public and private sector. If they chose to submit an application, I confirmed they understood the application would be included in this council meeting packet, which is public record. And for those currently serving on committees, specifically conflicting committees like the Planning Commission, I asked if they understood that the appointment to a mayor role would require resignation from said committee. Over the next 2 weeks, after I finished those interviews, I received input from citizens and sought out input from counselors on the interested applications in the form of emails, phone calls, and in-person conversations. From both counselors and citizens, I was provided feedback, personal recommendations, and concerns. During this time frame, one candidate did withdraw. They stated that they were worried about the level of hostility on social media that may arise from all of this. The candidate was concerned about retribution just for throwing their name in the ring. That actually caused me a great deal of concern, and I almost paused. At that point, I almost stopped and said, maybe we're not ready for this. Needless to say, I don't take any of this lightly. The resignation of a mayor is very significant, and I think the ramifications of such have played out through this council, and I think we've all seen that. So taking all that into consideration, I spent a great deal of time reflecting on qualities and experiences, the interviews, the feedback, my own personal experiences with the candidates. And as difficult as this decision has been, I know it's important to do what's best for Lafayette to get us moving in a more positive direction with clear leadership. While every candidate on this list checked most of these boxes, and I recognize that everybody has strengths and weaknesses, under my desired traits and experiences list, Marie Sproul has the additional experience of having served on the council and been mayor for this town. While one other applicant also has council experience, I feel that Marie's experience as mayor specifically supersedes that. In addition to mayoral experience, Marie has shown that she can work with the city administrator, various councils, and the public to navigate the needs of the city. Marie also has experience working with consultants in the Willamette Valley Council of Governments, both of which is something that the council, we as a council, will be doing in the next 18 months. Marie's also worked very hard during her prior term at reconnecting and networking with our neighboring cities, which is something Lafayette's been lacking for a long time. I feel that Marie has the interpersonal skills, the knowledge of process, time, and experience to fill Lafayette's mayoral needs, Therefore, my recommendation is to bring Marie Sproul on as mayor through the remainder of this term ending December 2022. To move forward, this motion would need I'm sorry, were you gonna say something? Okay.
I move to appoint Marie Sproul to the vacant memorial position, which has a term expiration of December 31st, 2022.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Hold on, we deliberate now, don't we? If there's any deliberations,
We can.
We can, if you'd like.
is that,
Well, that's why we paused. I thought,
well, but the order of rules is. You
I
can
understand that, but you
deliberate.
didn't speak up. So that's why I moved for it.
No, that,
So if we're gonna deliberate, let's get on.
I wasn't arguing about,
Okay.
it's, okay. I'm not saying we should have deliberated before the motion. I'm saying once the motion is made, there should be a chance for deliberation. Am I?
Generally, deliberation or comments are held before the motion.
Okay, that's not what I had read, so, I'll keep it short, I guess. I need to say that I cannot, I can't vote yes for this for a couple of reasons. I do feel like this is a step backwards for the city. I feel like the people have voted that, voted a new council in that We all seem very united in what we want to see. There's also concerns. I did have a conversation with our acting mayor, and it made it sound like the interest of Marie was not because she really wanted to run for mayor, but because she would fill a position that was vacant. And to me, that I'm concerned that we're just going to kind of ride out this term and not make the fullest. The other thing I'll speak to, I have a lot of concerns of misplaced interest. I won't say conflict of interest because that's a legal term and there's not any legal issues, but misplaced, I won't speak to those individually, but I do have those concerns. Now, given all those, Marie, if you are voted in, I'm not going to let this divide us, and I hope you prove me wrong. I really do. And I'll give you every chance to do that. But those are I needed to go on record to say that those are my concerns. And I want to see this city council as a whole achieve some good things, not in years to come, but starting now, until the end of the mayoral term we're talking about. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on to vote? All those in favor of appointing Marie to mayoral position?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Lee, I did not hear a vote from you.
You're muted.
I apologize. I was muted. I voted in favor.
Thank you. Okay.
4-1. Is that the
4-1,
vote?
yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you your new mayor, Mayor Sproul. There's somebody that can swear Marie in.
There is.
Fabulous.
We're ready.
Marie, do you want to take over? Oh,
I want to thank all of you for putting your trust in me again. And it's not, and like I've said before, is the reason that I didn't rerun, because I loved being mayor, is the reason that I didn't rerun is because I had a lot of business irons in the fire that had to be taken care of. It took a lot of my time. And I was afraid that I couldn't put my time in that needs to be mayor. However, all of those now have been finished. So my time now is free again. And there's nothing more that makes me happier than to serve the city.
thank you very much.
So thank you very much for your
Support.
Thank you.
I'm glad for you to be back on, Marie.
Mhm.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure working with you before. I'm sure it'll be good again.
Hi. Okay.
Can we do it in front of the camera for?
Oh,
Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, maybe over by.
I think stand right here.
And just, the camera. you see.
Yep, if you just want to raise your right hand and I'll have you read your statement there.
I, Marie Sproul, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of the state of Oregon and the ordinances and policies of the city of Lafayette, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of mayor.
Beautiful. If you just want to sign that top one for me there, and then I have one more in my book here for you to sign, and then I can finish the rest. And then while you're finishing this, Kevin will get your seal on there and get you a copy. And yes, and then you will sign.
Did you guys get copies of yours? I know you didn't get a new like.
I did, yes.
Do you need a copy of yours?
In person.
I signed here.
She's offering you.
Do you need a copy, Christine?
No, I'm good.
Okay. We have them all on.
I
file.
just know with COVID, we weren't able to do like
It was-
official
things are a little
things, so I
different.
just want to make sure everyone else got one.
We're all set.
Mayor Sproul, why don't you come take a seat where you belong? And move. Would you like to facilitate this meeting? I know that we're kind of throwing you in the fire here.
Yeah, this
Well,
is.
how about
this is
if-
a-
how about if
Here,
I-
no, you can sit in the middle in there.
How about if you help me with it? Let's do it.
That sounds good. Here's an extra packet.
Thank you.
Chair's good, this much. Oh, but you don't get to be mean. Sorry. This is for the executive session later.
Okay, where were we?
We are number 9B.
Part B.
Okay, we're on the annual renewal of the legal services contract from MWBCOG. How much are we changing in our
I
contract?
believe
this year?
$5.
It's $5
Oh, is
per
that
hour
right?
increase over the current year, and this is just for the plan, our legal services, excuse me, we did the planning services in May.
Okay, how many hours of legal services did we use this year? I'm sure it's in here, I just haven't gotten to that
It's
point.
not in the packet.
Okay.
It's real minimal, very minimal. I'd have to look it up, but it's, on a busy year, we might be looking at 20,000 for an annual cost in all of our legal services. And I would say we're probably below that for going through the year, but thinking just the calendar year, what's happened since January, there's not been a lot of activity and things to review, but there's a little bit every month, not much, really.
Does anybody on the council have any questions or?
I guess I would like to add as an attorney, a $5,000 increase in 1 year is not bad at all. So hourly rates generally jump up $10 to $15 per year. So,
You said
I,
5,000 or?
no, the $5 increase,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It sounded like, I was like.
Yeah,
know it did.
generally an attorney's hourly rate will increase by $10 to $15 per hour,
Okay,
not 5. So I think this is very reasonable.
And this is still, I don't know if we mentioned it this time. Oh, yeah, it's still below what we were paying in 2018. But
Well, and I also review, because I file a lot of statements for attorney fees, and in there we have to go through the analysis of what is a reasonable attorney fees. And so I see that all the counties for the entire state, and this is well below the average cost, so.
And that really is working under the umbrella of the COG that has put these great legal team together for the benefit of all the cities that they serve. And we've always gotten the time we need and timely advice. It's not like they're overburdened, so it's really worked out well going through the COG.
I remember years ago when we used to spend $10,000 a month
Oh.
on legal
I
fees.
remember hearing about that.
And,
seeing those numbers. That was crazy.
Horrendous. I'm sorry, Lee, did you have something you wanted to say?
yeah, I was just going to add that I think the Council of Governments does a good job with this because I personally do not know any attorneys who bill that low of a rate at any year of experience. And given our city attorney's experience, I think it's still a steal at that rate.
Great. Well, if everybody's in agreement, what about you, Jim?
yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay, and Greg?
Yeah, no issues.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the contract for legal services with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments for fiscal year 2022 and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. No, I'm not opposed.
Got it.
And I'm sorry, Sheila, I forgot to ask you if you had something to say.
I did not have anything to say, but when I'm trying to speak on Zoom, it's delayed. So give it a minute before you ask for opposed, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was passed unanimously. Okay. So the next one is the intergovernmental agreement with the new Carlton Fire District. Now, this is the agreement for the training officer that is going to come on board. Those will be half us and half Carlton. And, in the ideas somewhere down the line, if it works out, that he would be moving up to Terry's position. So I believe that it's a 50-50 split, is it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Then, does anybody have any, I mean, this is something that's proactive, that's, because Terry's not gonna leave us tomorrow, but at least we'll have somebody who's gonna be
Do we know
trained.
when Terry's planning to leave us?
Terry.
That's fluid.
I still see a smile behind your mask.
The plan is, if I might, Terry, that he's committed for a year to train this officer, the training officer. And if it works out, they move up to chief, fine. If they don't, well, that's, non-committal. But hopefully by the time he leaves, we'll have another 2 people that we could share at that point. Is that about right, Terry?
Yes.
And
Another 2 people, what do you mean by that?
well, we would have 2 people, the training officer
Right,
and a chief.
and a chief.
And it could, the current training officer might just be fine, and that's what he is, and then we recruit for a new chief.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, okay, so you're
Potentially.
meaning.
Yeah.
Meaning
Yeah.
the training officer could move up, he or she could move up.
Or could stay,
or
we
could
might
stay
just look at
here,
it.
yeah.
Hire an
Right,
agent.
either
Yeah.
But we'll
way,
evaluate that
that's
when that comes.
that's to kind of see how this goes for a year. And a couple of things that it's important to point out on this is we did go through the recruitment, which did not land a successful appointment. And the Carlton Fire District Board requested to do this IGA first before we recruit again, as a not really an incentive, but maybe perhaps a better situation for
They have a
someone
better
to
idea
come
what
in.
they're coming into.
A little more clear, who to report to and all that. This IGA makes it very clear who's responsible, when and all. And I think that's, once this gets done tonight and it goes to the Carlton Board for approval, we'll begin recruiting again and get all those announcements out and do it again. And fingers crossed, we're gonna get another good slate of candidates, a pool, and choose a training officer out of that. So Terry, when does your next board meet?
Well, they met earlier this week, but they were, I suggested we wait in case there were some changes. They're on board, they're ready to sign. No changes, they're fine.
Okay.
We're ready to move ahead, so we'll start that as soon as you guys agree.
Well, it's probably a better way to do it. That way everybody is on board right now and there's no, well, just you have to wait a minute or wait a week or 2 till we get these guys okay.
Yeah.
This way they can go ahead and get him hired and we're off and running.
Too many hands in the pot.
Yes.
City really heavily involved in the process, so.
And so Carlton has already approved this on their end?
Pardon me,
Has
Not formal.
Carlton approved this on their end?
they verbally approved it.
Okay,
But it still has to
It's
go
not
to
The city
formal.
council
Yeah.
has verbally approved it, the fire district.
We're a fire district, we have.
It won't go to
council
their
has
council.
no
It's the
say.
board.
We're separate in it.
Gotcha, okay.
We don't have anything like that for Lafayette, right?
We don't have a fire board, we're a municipal department, so.
Okay. So, I noticed that the contract says that, Carlton will basically cover everything for, managing this employee. Does that include hiring as well? Or are we expected to be involved? I'm just trying to understand the time commitment for our city admin for
They'll
hiring.
be heavily involved.
Both entities were heavily involved in the last recruiting and interview process. I would imagine that would be similar again.
Very similar, yes.
Yeah.
Right, very similar, right, Terry?
Yeah, we don't anticipate any change from the last time we did it.
And you might recall Christine volunteered to be on that hiring panel, along with one of Terry's board members and a group of, there was a combination of citizens and other professionals, and it was a very good
From all the
process.
districts, yeah.
Very good
It was,
process.
it really was. It was very thorough. It was good.
Is it common to have, it managed exclusively by one party or? My concern is we're saying, okay, it's about $65,000 annually, but whatever 50% equals, here's a blank check, and they take care of everything. Now, in some ways that could be good, but I'm trying to understand, you know, the big picture here on, we say, okay, you guys take care of it.
Isn't that essentially what we're with respect with you currently? And it's been working
You don't
great.
have any-
There's no contract or
Yeah.
Okay.
190 agreement. It's just, yes, we anticipate no problems. The person will be here daily, so that they hopefully, well, maybe not daily, but most half the time. So they'll be able to, through me, supervise them. You know, I visit with Preston every day, so it'll be, you know, I don't anticipate any problem. We borrowed this IGA agreement from some other fire departments that are doing the same thing, so it's not, as we look at the big picture of fiscal constraints and other things going on, 190 agreements are fairly common and getting more common.
It's not unusual for one city to take lead on
Right.
these type of things. And that's what the Carlton board did. I mean, it's too hard to have two, you know, sometimes with two cities too involved,
Too much.
Right.
right?
Well, that's, you know, like I said, there's pros and cons, right? So I wasn't sure if there was any kind of gotcha, but.
Terry, how many firefighters does Carlton have?
Surprisingly about the same as Lafayette.
17,
Volunteers,
18, and they're all volunteers.
all volunteers. It's, I mean, I run both of them, so they kind of mirror each other. And it's easier that way.
The only difference really between the two is that one is a district and one is a municipal city.
And Terry has been a part-time employee in both. There is no 190 regarding his employment. And that's the way it's been for 20+ years, and it's worked well. But this, I think, needs a different arrangement and something more standard. And it's, again, at the request of the New Carlton Fire District Board, but I think it's more clear and it could really help in the recruitment process. If people had concerns, well, who do I report to? I've got a city manager over here, I've got district board members, we've got a counselor, you know.
That's why I think it's good to be
That was
specific.
some feedback we heard from some other candidates, that there's a little bit of clarity could be used in that. So,
No one needs.
I think
17
Lee's
bosses.
trying to say something.
Oh,
Hey. Oh, hi, everybody. Hey, I'm just curious of this $130,000 total cost. What is, does anyone know what the salary portion of that is?
I think we put out 75 to 80,000.
Yeah.
as a salary, 75 to 80, benefits, other expenses run about 50%. You know, you've got other expenses like uniforms and vehicle and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's all plays into the 130 total.
Does that cover PERS? Does that
Yes.
apply? Okay.
Yes.
now, on this agreement, that means that this guy is going to be a employee of Carlton, and then we just pay like a subcontractor his portion of it. So, yeah,
Correct.
so Carlton is gonna cover the insurance and carry the insurance, workman's comp and everything, is that correct?
Right.
They're gonna carry it, but we split the costs on that. You
Well, yeah,
correct.
no,
We'd
it's
be
gonna
paying
cost-
we'd be
Yeah.
paying the Carlton Fire
Right,
District,
but
not writing our own policies.
It's their
and how they-
policy.
Correct, yes. For all benefits, they would be lead for their employee.
Okay,
I had one last question. The last time the recruitment went through, I remember there being two kind of finalists. Is that gonna, once we finalize this, is this to make it like sweeten the deal? Is it gonna be available for those two, or is that? My question is, are we just doing this to get one of those that said no thanks? Or,
No, we passed.
This was not a no
Okay.
thanks situation.
he passed.
Okay.
Passed.
We didn't feel they were a good fit for our organization.
okay,
After
Thank
the
you.
interview process, actually, all the candidates also have the opportunity to meet with all the volunteers. It has to be a good fit all around,
Okay.
not just for us that don't know anything. Right?
That's good.
okay.
Excellent.
That makes me feel better too.
Okay, so do I have a motion for that?
I move to approve the IGA with the new Carlton Fire District for the sharing of costs and responsibilities for fire training officer.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Greg?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
I saw his lips moving, but not.
That's why-
I was like, I saw things.
Okay, the next thing is a liquor license from El Toro Mexican Restaurant.
I didn't even know this restaurant was coming in.
Well, I didn't either until today. It's the American Cafe.
Yeah, I had no idea about this.
I'm excited.
I
Are they
saw-
already open?
No, I saw a lot of activity for the last week, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on. And then this came up and I went,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's, it's pretty simple. Do we, they want a liquor license to serve their customers.
okay, so
Similar to the other bars in town?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't know when they're gonna open, right? Preston, I think you said you hadn't received a permit or paperwork for their opening yet.
I don't know when they're opening.
Okay. And I guess just one thing I wanted to point out is they're showing in their design that they have outdoor seating area, which from my perspective is along Washington Street side there, where they currently have a bench. And I'm seeing 2 tables out there, in the drawing, it's 8 chairs, 2 tables. Their patio hours are 11 to 7, so I don't know that, if they do have outdoor folks out there, it's not gonna be noisy enough to late into the evening. But I am curious about that and whether that's something we would allow,
Patio seating?
the city would allow as far as having that outdoor area there. There's like 3 parking spots right there as well, so I would think, it slips off the clutch, forward it goes, and there's people out there. I don't have an issue with the license itself, but I may have an issue with this outdoor
Right.
the thing
area.
is that restaurant's gonna have to follow laws and rules in place on them for operating the business. Their premises are gonna have to get approved. That's not our job.
No.
And honestly, I think it's wonderful that we're gonna be drawing some people to the outside of Lafayette.
Yeah.
It might also encourage some businesses to clean up a little bit more.
I'm excited to have something in that building.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
it's been empty for a long time.
Patio seating brings a lot of the community together
Sure.
too, because, they see, oh, so-and-so's out there, let's stop and
Yeah,
maybe see
exactly.
something and stuff like that.
No, I think it's a great idea. I'm concerned about the position. I got married in American Cafe by the owner,
Really?
I got married in Germany, and so it's all in German. We had to get married here, so we did the $50 justice of the peace. But the owner, I forget her name now, it's so long ago, 15 years ago. She married us there, and inside it was, anyway. I like the American Cafe. I like that
I like
spot.
that story.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Okay, so where were we?
All right.
Did we have a second?
I had a
We need a motion.
Oh, Jeff.
I had a quick question about the hours. It would seem to me that they should be free to change their business hours at will, but if they do change that, does that come across the city council again for endorsing or?
The liquor license is basically approving a liquor license means they can serve liquor when they're legally allowed to. We're not giving input on what their hours are of operation or.
Well, no, but if they said we're gonna be open from, 11 to 9, and then after 2 weeks, they say, okay, we're gonna be open until 2 AM, that would potentially be, like a bait and switch almost. I was just wondering if that comes back before us or not. I don't have that concern with this. I was just,
I've never had something come back before us like that in 10 years.
okay.
No, the only thing that would come back is if they change their license, a request to change.
Okay.
Now, the city could revoke a license or move to revoke a license if they became a nuisance property. And
Okay.
that applies to any property
Sure.
as a liquor license. You say, this is a problem, it's gonna go if you don't. fix your
Okay.
issues.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to bring more business.
You ready for a motion? Okay. I move to endorse an LCC application for an on-premises commercial liquor license for El Toro Mexican Restaurant and Bar.
Second?
A second?
Second. You know, I need to stop here because I didn't ask Lee and Sheila what they thought. I'm sorry. Do you have any comments?
I'm good. I think the comments that were brought up, I just kind of saw as other governing body issues. So I don't have a problem with the LCC license.
Okay, and Sheila?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, so we've had a motion and we've had it second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed unanimously.
Okay, got it.
Quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, now we got it. Okay. Sorry, the Wi-Fi at this hotel is not great. So there's a delay.
Not free.
You need to get you need to get yourself a little hotspot and carry it with you.
I was thinking you gotta pay for Wi-Fi, it better be good Wi-Fi.
Okay, the next one is a resolution for ecology rate. Evidently, they're increasing our rates and it's for the commercial portion, is that correct?
Well, it's not for a commercial service. It's
Okay.
actually for tipping fees at the landfill,
Okay,
which do get passed on, within the great scheme of things, but this is not for commercial or residential service in Lafayette.
okay.
This isn't for special dumping fees at the landfill.
If it doesn't affect Lafayette, why did this have to come before us?
Well, they are raising their rates, and even though it's, not for the general service, it's, you have to consent to the rate increase.
Okay,
So on the last page here of this section, it has a current rate column, and it looks like they're only increasing for disposal fee of demolition per ton and garbage per ton by 59 cents.
Great.
now there was a question that came up on social media about recology, and evidently there's been a long waiting period for garbage cans for yard debris.
Yeah, so we actually have two things in this packet, and I know you haven't seen the whole packet, so
Okay,
that probably
thanks.
makes it challenging. So within this agenda item, there's actually two things to discuss. So we've got the resolution, which is the rate increase for the tipping fees.
Okay,
And then behind that, there is a letter from Recology that outlines potential options for styrofoam and glass recycling. So there's kind of two things under this one topic. They don't, obviously, they're not passed together.
here it is, okay.
I think this letter kind of outlines options that we can discuss,
And
whereas the resolution is just for the rate increase of the tipping fee for large dumpsters.
Okay, so we want to approach this in two different things.
I think it might be a
One
good
is-
idea to keep them separate.
I think we maybe need to start with the options first then.
Well, the options here don't impact the tipping fee of this rate of the dumpsters.
The rate increase can be passed, and then this can be discussed, because this isn't something that we have to agree to this moment.
Okay, that makes me
Yeah,
feel better.
yeah.
That's where I got.
Yeah.
We asked probably mid-year of last year for
Yeah.
them to bring us this quote.
I thought they
For glass and
paused last year
styrofoam.
due to the pandemic.
That's why they didn't bring it to us
Yeah.
last year. Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't want
I
to
think
raise
that's
the
why
rate.
it's
They didn't
now-
want to raise the rates last year, if I recall correctly.
Well, I mean, like the glass and styrofoam, we had asked for information on that last year, but I think because of the pandemic, there was kind of a delay in all the things.
The reason because people from Lafayette, when they take their styrofoam to McMinnville, have to pay for it.
Mhm.
It hasn't
Unless you
been,
get one of those that, oh, no, that's your.
it hasn't, so you've been able to go to the recycling and you have to break it down, but you've been able to use styrofoam recycling now for, I want to say, almost the past year. So I don't know what this item 2 is different than what is currently going on.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what was going on with item 2. Option A is really what grabbed my attention, or well, no, item 3, the glass, option A and B. And C, because I know there's been a big call for glass recycling in Lafayette.
Yeah.
But maybe we should address the resolution first and then go back to those other options.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because they're really 2 separate items.
So what we need is a motion to approve the resolution for the rate increase.
This is the one that's limited to the commercial.
Yes,
For the tipping fee.
the tipping fee, yeah.
I move to approve resolution 2021-06 for Ecology Western Oregon rates effective July 1st, 2021.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this is passed. Okay, now,
So on the second part, that was when we were discussing last year at the council meeting, because citizens wanted the option to have these cans, right? They were
Right.
saying, this is what we charge to offer your citizens
Yeah.
the services.
right,
So they laid out basically a couple options. We could do a 15% rate increase for all customers, and then everybody could have glass if they wanted.
Yeah, I don't-
or
Or,
styrofoam.
well, the styrofoam's a different one. So the styrofoam, we propose to add styrofoam drop off. No rate adjustment is required for this program. There will be some future upward pressure on collection rates by adding the intercompany recycling expense, but we expect this to be a small impact. So currently, there's no rate adjustment.
So the
So it sounds like they
styrofoam,
don't promise that won't happen. but-
right,
Kristen, could you get some clarification with whoever sent on the styrofoam specifically? Versus what's available now and what they're saying will be.
Sure, and Dave Larmuth, who was here last year, he's the rate analyst. We were expecting him to be here tonight to
Okay.
kind of walk through a couple of those things.
Did he have a time frame that he was coming, or was he just,
Yeah, he didn't set that up.
okay, I didn't know if he was coming at like 8 or
No,
something.
no, that's
Okay.
not, no.
Okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but I hadn't had time to read this and
Right.
study it, and I'd like to table it for another session.
Maybe
Yeah, and-
next month.
Yeah, next month or maybe even August. It's not something,
Honestly, I
had-
got confused. I thought that this was part of the first part, and so.
Not having him as separate agenda items, makes this probably could have been a discussion item
well,
versus.
and I think, and I'm saying this, more for the public, because looking at social media earlier, where people were talking about the yard debris, I don't think they realize that it would be for yard waste specifically, if we did that, it would be forced upon every citizen. If we went that route, everybody's rate would go up. Versus if we're doing glass, there's option A and option B, where it's either everybody or it's only specific subscribers.
So
I-
currently with our yard degree, it's actually the same as option B is.
Right.
So.
Right,
yeah.
but I think they were saying, they were suggesting that we should have that here, as part of the package.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's how I read, that's how I
Forcing
interpreted
everyone to
it.
pay
Yeah, and
for
so
it, right.
I just think it's, the point needs to be made that if we do that, everyone's rate goes up, if we force it on
Well,
the
if we went
city.
with option A,
Right.
that would, but.
Okay.
yeah, I personally, we take ours to our yard debris to McMinnville. I wouldn't want it to be citywide.
Yeah.
And
I do both.
I agree.
I think people, what I can understand where they say, we need to have so many people within the city to make it worthwhile to bring a truck here.
Mhm.
But I don't think we should have, everybody have to have it.
No.
I agree.
So can we table this for July or August? Get some clarification?
Have Dave come back.
I think having him here would be.
Well, I would say August at the soonest.
Yeah, because I can't really talk about this because I haven't read it.
If we considered option C, I mean, it says at a location supervised by the city, would that likely be in front of City Hall? I mean,
There's a lot of pros and cons to that I've heard, so I think we should probably have him here to discuss them, because it comes into like
Okay.
liability and cleanup issues and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think it would probably be more like if the community.
I'd like more information,
around it,
especially on
the
that.
back Where you can't see it.
We need More information on that one.
it's just hard to be supervised by the city, like, we're not even really using it, so.
Yeah.
And it's worked out really well in some cities that way, where you've got big bins and they get picked up once a month. But we don't have space for that, we just. So August, you're thinking,
Yeah, that
Okay.
worked. And so the resolution was okayed and then that set off, so we're on to the next one, correct?
Right, Sheila and Lee, do you have any concerns about tabling that to August? Okay, perfect, great. I see head nods.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Keep it
I
together.
know. You guys need like flags or something.
Maybe something like bubbles.
Are we seeking clarification on the yard debris backup? Is that something Preston can look into?
I think the question should be asked why it's taking so long, and it's probably gonna come down to the fact that it's the pandemic and the supply chains and different things like that, more than likely, but it's a good answer.
I think we should at least try to ask it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
the styrofoam and if there's still a backlog.
No, a backlog on yard debris.
For the yard
bins,
debris bins,
yeah.
you bet.
Because one thing that was mentioned on social media is that people wanted to see if we could contract someone other than Recology,
Right.
and you can't do that.
You can't do that.
We're kind of stuck.
Well, it's an exclusive franchise, and until you're ready to turn it all over to somebody else, nobody else gets it.
We're trying to fire PGE.
And
Thank
some,
you.
Yeah.
some cities require garbage service as well. Larger cities, it's required, every house has it. So if you don't sign up for it, you're getting billed for it anyway, so.
Okay, the next thing we have is the budgets legislation. Okay.
Before we dive too deep into the budget legislation, I do have to state my actual conflict of interest. My husband and brother both serve on our fire department, and because those budgets are covered under our general budget, as well as the workman's compensation covers them if they were to be injured, I have to abstain from any voting on resolution 2021-03 and 2021-05. 2021-04 does not fall under that category, so I will be able to vote on that one.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for letting us know that. Okay, it looks like the first resolution that we need to vote on or discuss is the workman's compensation coverage for volunteers. I understand this is just, we just talk about it and then we vote on it. Preston, is there do we have to open or close a meeting or anything?
No, there's no hearings associated with that, we did that earlier. But it does, we are required to identify our workers' compensation provider and who that gets applied to. And this resolution does that. We've starting this next fiscal year, we will be under the stewardship of SAFE for our workers' comp. And that's really a great move by CCIS, our city county insurance services, to partner with them on workers' comp.
Did we have a private company before? Or were we always under SAFE?
No, SAFE will be new.
Okay.
Before, I think it was all self-managed. I'm not sure through CIS. There could have been a
CIS.
sub
Okay.
in that, but the CCIS did a great job on all of that. And in fact, we're going to see a decrease in our workers' compensation rates, I think, along with most cities. And in the long run, it's just a great move to partner with SAFE on this.
It's a larger pool of people that go into SAFE, so that's why your figure should be less.
Well, and they focus on return to work and minimizing claims and they're experts, in this. And CCIS did such a good job. It's not like they're picking up a broken, something that's broke. I think SAFE was really pleasantly surprised at how well everybody's doing, and nobody expected a big decrease in rates, and we're seeing that.
Yes. Does anybody have any discussion or comments on the workman's compensation program? Lee,
Nothing. Thank you, though.
Sheila?
No, thank you.
Now, the motion is written here for all three of these together. So let's talk about the second one. and then
That's
we'll-
what I was
Okay,
thinking. yeah.
go ahead. The next resolution is to elect to receive state revenue sharing. Now, what we have here is $143,000 that can go into the general fund, and the other amount of money, which is what, 300 and some thousand?
We've
They go into
expected 305,000 in gas taxes.
that goes directly into the streets. We have no control over that. What we have a control over is 143. Now, in the past, what we've done is just put that into the general fund and let it being used as we need it, or to whatever we want to do, rather than specifically earmark it for something. So all we're doing is saying, yes, give us the money.
All of it.
All of
Yes,
it.
we want everything we're entitled to, yes.
So does anybody have any questions or thoughts on that at all?
You might recall, Marie, for several years, cities were required to say what you intend to use it for. And it was easy for most cities to say, we're gonna put it toward law enforcement,
Right.
because it doesn't even begin to pay for your law enforcement costs, you know. And you make the connection to liquor and cigarette taxes and that sort of thing. And there's no condition on how you spend that at this point.
Well, we had in the past, over the years that I've been on the council, is we had earmarked one year it was earmarked for parks. And another it was earmarked something Leah Harper wanted to have done. So there were certain things, but to me, it seems as though it's a better option just to let it set in the general fund, and then we can use it as we need it. If we have a special thing come up that we need some money for, maybe we want to buy a new light for the city hall or something. I don't know.
Well, let me clarify a little bit. That money is all plugged into the budget. You know, there's no contingency in the general fund. There is extra money in capital to use on projects. That's really that, for instance, with the salary of the code enforcement officer, we took that out of capital. That's where the general fund has a little bit of expense to if you had to say find money for parks to purchase land or something. But so these general fund revenues from state share revenues, they go into the full general fund pot, and it's allocated across the board. Personnel, materials and services, capital.
When you say allocated, you mean it can be used in any of those spots?
Well, it's already programmed through the budget committee and now the council. There's a plan to spend all that money in the general fund.
Okay.
Yes.
So are you saying that we have, because I wasn't part of the budget process, are you saying that we have no money in case we need something for something special?
Well, it depends on how much.
Okay.
And what for, but that's right. We are, we don't have a rainy day fund. We don't have contingency, very little contingency throughout the whole budget, but no contingency in the general fund.
Okay.
Are we drawing on reserves to make this budget?
No,
And
we're not drawing on reserves.
Okay.
Okay, so that is, anything else on the sharing of revenue? Sheila?
No,
Lee?
No, I mean, it seems like it's already considered and calculated in the budget, so it seems to be the wise thing to accept money when it's given to us.
Yes.
Want to stick with others? Yeah.
Anybody else, Jim?
No.
Greg?
No.
All right, let's go on to number 3, resolution adoption of fiscal budget for the city budget. Now, the problem that I have here is that this motion is written for all 3 of these,
It
and
is.
she can't vote on one of them.
Right. You want to.
Can't vote on 2 of them.
She can't vote on 2 of them.
You want to do one at a time.
Okay,
Yes. And if I'd have thought about that, Christina, I'd have
That's
done
okay.
that differently. but,
okay, so do we want to go ahead and go for the resolution on the workman's comp and the state revenue sharing and then go to the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a motion on the first one.
Can I make a quick note here? I just want everybody to realize and say this publicly, since this is a publicly recorded meeting. These documents reflect Christine's signature. I assume that it will be Marie's signature on the bottom of these. So I just want to point out that discrepancy that's bound to come up.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, great.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Well-
Yeah, well, Kevin will change
He
these
can
before I
change
sign
every
them. before I
We'll
sign them.
change all
Thank
of
you,
it. You
thank
bet.
you for that.
You bet.
Solid call out.
Okay,
Okay,
so I'm
let's,
gonna try to do this. I might get it wrong. I move to approve the following 2 resolutions.
No,
Resolution.
hold on, you
No.
gotta do them separate because she can.
I can
not
only vote on the
first.
middle one.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
See, I told you I'd screw this up.
that's okay. Just,
I move to approve the following resolution, resolution 2021-03, extending workers' compensation coverage to volunteers.
okay, do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Any opposed? I mean, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
And Sheila?
aye,
You did, okay.
And one abstention.
I understand.
And Christine, you can vote on this next one, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I move to approve the following resolution 2021-04, declaring city's election to receive state revenue sharing.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, there we go. We got 1 and 2 taken care of.
Your Honor, could I mention something on state revenues for?
Sure.
Off of that? This is, we get these to the city based on population. We call them state shared revenues. But all of these revenues were once city. And through agreements, we've worked with the state to share in that for the betterment of everyone.
Mhm.
Every year, we have to fight the legislature who wants to take that away from us. And the league does a great job in holding the line, but it is a constant battle, you know, and the league has to remind state officials that we are partners in this. They forget that these were all city revenues at one point, and we agreed to share them on a statewide basis for the betterment of everyone. So that's just some valuable history for all of us to kind of remember and be thankful for what the league does for us. Yes.
So did we all vote on that? Okay, so we're finished with those 2.
Yeah, but no, this last one's a big one.
Yeah, the last one's a big one. Okay, so this is the resolution to adopt the fiscal budget for 21-22. Anybody wants to discuss anything about that budget? You know, you went through the budget process. Do you want to? Because this is your chance to change something if necessary.
So Preston, you were just talking about kind of how tight the money is and it's all specified. How is this impacting that with these increases?
How is what impacting it?
Like our financial resources,
Right.
because essentially all the funds are essentially tied up at this point. So I was just curious where.
Well, it is, and we have some revenues that are growing, like in our reserves for vehicles, for fire equipment. SDCs are growing for the most part because of the new development. We're spending water SDCs just as they come in, so we're not pooling that. But we're building SDCs in streets and sewer and parks. But very slowly in parks, because we're kind of starting off with nothing, and that's also the subject of our executive session tonight. In the other, with the general fund, we've gone through a lot the last couple of years to make sure we can build these very critical water infrastructure improvements, even doing a loan to shore up water so it could pay for the pump station. So our general fund is growing. It's growing because of the taxes, just general purpose taxes. We haven't seen any indication of a downturn in that because of the pandemic. Some areas have. I don't know if that's happening in Oregon, but it's not happening here. But it's something we're looking at. So I think that as we get our feet under us more, we're going to be able to use the general fund more so in the future as that builds. But right now, we've gone through the drama of funding water improvements and trying to do more with parks and code enforcement. So the outlook for the general fund is good. It's not spiking. It's just steadily increasing, which is a good thing. As long as you have growth, that tends to happen. The only concern I really have is on our enterprise funds, water and sewer. We haven't kept up with inflation for 2 years. You'll be looking at a rate study option. I'm thinking maybe August that's coming your way. As one vendor that does a really good job on this and helps smaller cities at an affordable price, that's the Oregon Association of Water Utilities. I expect to have a proposal that you could look at. The next month, then you decide whether to go forward or not. If not, we put it out on RFP and bring in the big boys that charge 2-3 times as much, But that's my only concern right now in the budget is water and sewer utility. Keeping up with our needs, and we're not doing that.
What is the possibility of combining the water and the sewer enterprise funds?
It can be done. I don't know how that would help anything, but it can be done, yes.
Well, there's more money in the sewer fund than there is in the water fund at any one time.
You can use.
And if they were combined, we could use it, whichever fund or whichever sewer or water was more important, we could use it at that time versus that. I just think that it's something we should look at because I think it will give us more flexibility.
Well, you have that opportunity now.
Put this together and we don't have to go through the process of.
You have the ability now as a council to use sewer revenues on water and vice versa. We've done that a few times over the last 10 years where needed. And that can be done in the future.
But if they're combined, you can use them without loaning back and forth.
Well, that's correct. We wouldn't loan back and forth between those. We would loan from the general fund, but not between the two enterprise funds. Okay. That can be done now. And in this current year's budget, we don't do that. Mm-hmm. In recent years, it has been done because of the need for projects. I think it's still good to keep them separate for analysis and all, and one doesn't just dominate the other. But you do have that flexibility each budget year to borrow from one of the, not borrow, that's not the right term, utilize from each fund without borrowing.
Well, now, if I remember correctly, in the next 2 years, don't we have a lot of our debt coming due or done?
We are, we maybe have, I'd have to look, our last payments on some significant debt either occurred this June or next December. I have to look, I got it right here, I can tell you. But most of the debt for the city comes off in this fiscal year. It's a very good thing. It's a beautiful thing. But we've taken on some debt, Mac Water and Light, the general fund loan to the water. So
yeah, we haven't taken on the same amount of debt that's going away.
Correct. It's less than what's going away.
Exactly.
You bet. expenditures under the MAC, as you might remember, and I've got it in the budget, it outlines all that. The payments increase over here to allow the city to meet our cash flow better. And over the course of 10 years, well, actually 9 years now, you know. So all of that will be looked at as well as critical infrastructure needs like a second reservoir. That plays into a rate study, along with all your current employees, your current expenses, and how many employees you need over time. That is a factor in all of that rate analysis. Yes.
Okay, anybody have anything else they want to discuss about the budget? Jim?
So this code enforcement officer we're seeing is a total cost for 95,256, or sorry, 96,256. What's the salary base for that, Preston?
The salary base is $25 an hour. So that's
So 15.
52,000. $52,000 a year.
there you go. And I know it's a critical need. As I mentioned here, I'm not going to move forward without council direction, but that could be something you might be prepared to say tonight. Let's get going. But it's budgeted as a full-time, and that's all pending council's decision on which way you want to go on that.
You know, from what I have observed, from what the citizens have said, that this is a hot button, and I think it would be smart that if we moved ahead on it, because his salary doesn't come due until July, and it's going to take them a while to find somebody full-time to do this. And, you know, I was part of the people that set up the $40,000 for a part-time person and thought that would work. Well, you know, I just don't feel as though a part-time person can do what we need them to do and what the citizens want them to do right now.
I think we also need to be providing support to these deputies.
Yes. Well, to be honest with you, I would rather the deputies not do anything. That's why I'm going for a full-time person, because I would rather pay somebody $25 an hour to do that than I would pay somebody
Well,
$60
yeah,
or
I mean,
$80 an hour as a deputy.
There's important crimes and safety things that they need to be focusing on. But I think just also in general, providing our deputies more support, they do a lot for this community, and I don't think that they are recognized nearly as much as they should be.
No, as far as that goes, you're absolutely right. But in my mind, from a efficiency standpoint and dollar for dollar standpoint,
Absolutely.
you know, I would rather have my deputies out taking care of drug houses and all this other stuff rather than writing tickets for a car that's parked wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just cost effective to do that,
Yes.
Well, and
in my opinion.
and offering the full-time position will attract people with experience.
Mhm.
And an advertisement could be something like $25 an hour. Work schedule is negotiable up to full-time. Leaving some room there for somebody that maybe doesn't want to work full-time. And that you just might get a retired person with a lot of experience that just wants to work 3 days a week or 4 days. Or the people that are in code enforcement that want to work full-time. An announcement can try to attract both of those.
Well, full-time positions generally attract.
This is an hourly position, not a salary.
It would be a salary position, yes.
It would be salary.
Yes,
But based on $25 an hour.
correct.
Right. So is that rate, how does that compare for other full-time code enforcement officers and like experience level? Is that an entry level? Is that 2 to 3 years or more?
Well, in code enforcement, really, there is just the one position in a city like our side, if you even get that. So in a bigger city, not even probably McMinnville, but I'm talking about even a bigger city, you're going to have a few people that do code enforcement, and that's all they do. But in a small city, you're lucky to have anybody dedicated. The one person I talked to the most on this was Frank Sheridan at the city of Sheridan, who has a long history of having a code enforcement officer. unlike all the other cities, you know, and it's been difficult. He was able to have somebody real good for a few years that just wanted to work part-time, but he felt that this was a great way to approach it and a good price, get us right where we need to be. And we should be able to attract somebody with experience, you know, direct code enforcement experience.
Yeah, my concern was that we would have to be training somebody like, it seemed like we were doing
I'm not gonna
this
do
last
that.
one, and
I'm not gonna
we
do
can't
that.
afford that as a city, you know, to be waiting for a 4 or 6 month ramp.
No, we need to do something, and the citizens need to see that we're doing it right away. We need to be aggressive on this, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll have to tighten up some ordinances, apparently. Yeah.
Well, I think all of our ordinances, as far as that go, need to be tightened up. I mean, take a look at, if you drive down First Street, forget about the houses. Did you drive down First Street? Look at Simple Needs Building. They've got weeds that are this high. Look at the Schoolhouse Antiques and that the new G Mart. The whole front of their thing that used to be bark dusted is now just a massive field of weeds and everything else. So we got more issues than just houses.
Yeah, but we can't be expecting these deputies to be going and dealing with those weeds.
Well, that's why I don't think we should have I think this full-time person should
And
be
that's what
doing
I'm
it.
saying. Clearly, there's a lot going on. Deputies are not getting the support that they need in this town. So by offering a full-time position, we're going to attract actually good candidates who we shouldn't have to train, who can take this on. And then people need to understand that there's differences between city laws, state laws, and let the code enforcer do what the code enforcer needs to do. And then when it's time to step in and bring in the deputies, code enforcer can do that.
Exactly right.
Just to clarify, this part of the agenda is actually just to decide if we want to give room for that in the budget. We're not deciding if we're gonna do that, if we need that. what
Well,
needs to
we had
be
a little,
first.
we'll have a
No, I
little
know.
bypass here.
Got it.
A little
It happens.
bypass.
I just wanted to make sure
Simple
that
process, Jack.
the money that was proposed was adequate for somebody that would fill
Yeah.
a position well.
Anyway, all we really need to do tonight on this is if we agree on it, we need to direct Preston to start the hunt for
Based on
for an officer based on what we've already budgeted.
If I may, can I jump in? I think what I'm hearing from Jim and what I'm hearing from Kayla that I agree with is by agreeing to make room in the budget for this, and if we decide to direct Preston to go ahead and try to find someone to hire, we're really looking for somebody who can hit the ground running and has some experience doing this. Is that accurately what I'm hearing there?
Yes.
Yes. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. There's no confusion or anything.
Okay. Great. So do we want to direct Preston to start that process?
I do.
Can we
probably
take
pass
care
the
of, can we
budget
take care of
first.
the budget and then
Oh, sure.
I thought we were gonna talk about code enforcement later.
Okay, so I move to approve the following resolution. Resolution 2021-05, adoption of the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 city budget, making appropriations and imposing property taxes.
Second? Oh, that's right. You can. Greg, Jim, we need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
I'm gonna tell you that last sentence.
And
Okay.
one abstention, okay.
Property tax.
Got it.
All against? Nobody against? So we,
Sheila kind of cut out. You said in favor, right, Sheila?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. There's a delay here that's driving me crazy.
That,
like when you're watching, it's like when you're watching the news and the guy's talking and his lips don't match the words.
You know, that is one of my
Worst.
biggest.
Isn't that-
mine too.
Isn't that
That's it.
terrible?
That's a deal breaker for
Especially
me.
during football.
I know.
Sorry.
Okay, the next thing is the public works and product.
Pandemic and policy
Yeah.
considerations.
The
Sorry.
bottom, it's right. Okay, that is where we talk about what we have set up and if we want to change anything. I don't have
I can talk about, talk to it a little bit. Not a lot has changed in this. The state of declaration of emergency from Cape Brown is extended through June 28th. Restaurant relief program we've been taking month to month. Is something we want to continue?
Yeah.
Is there any opposition to continuing the restaurant relief program?
No, looks like.
Nothing else has changed really. City parks continue to be open to the public. Accommodations for various gatherings, if they're appropriate, and meet the state guidelines.
Christine, can I jump in?
Yep.
I just want to talk about the facilities here, specifically City Hall. I'm a big believer that public facilities should be open for public use. I understand with the risk situation right now, we're not there yet. But I'll just point to the announcement last week from Governor Brown that where the state is close to getting to 70% vaccination, they're hoping to open entirely by the 21st. They may miss that deadline, so maybe if we kind of had City Hall looking to open a few days after that, just so we're ready to open back up as soon as we can, I think that would be beneficial.
Can I just add on here that the city hall could open back up as soon as that happens?
Right.
That doesn't need a council
We-
directive. Actually,
No,
doesn't.
no, it
That's-
doesn't.
they can
Okay.
just open it.
We just need to take City Hall off of this facility information here for our next meeting.
Is it completely closed or is it by appointment right now?
We're here. People knock on the windows if they need, but by appointment, you bet.
I saw a comment on social media that somebody was frustrated the doors were locked. Understandably, you can't just have people walking in. But, you know, again, I guess this is trying to say, yes, it's available, but give you guys a call beforehand, right?
You bet. And we post on both on the front door to call in, and we get deliveries and folks that need to come in and submit applications and questions. It's not a lot, you know, most can be handled over the phone.
What about the community center?
The same, basically. If City Hall becomes open, then I'm sure it would apply to others too. So we're anticipating some good news by the end of the month, yes.
Would that include the park restrooms? I know there was also interest
You
in
bet,
those.
it would include those two, unless there are guidelines specific to that would be different. I think the 70% threshold that Councilor Gilgan talked about is gonna apply to all of these things. You know, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm thinking it will.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So when we are able to open up City Hall and the community center, will we be placing a porta potty at Commons Park that is now being used again? The reason I ask is because we have a personal one on our back property and there's people every single weekend walking across our private property to use our personal porta potty. And it's because there is none at the community center or at the park, Commons Park. So do we have a date in mind if we open the City Hall where we could have that facility established for the people that do use?
Have one there before.
Yeah, it's always had one. I feel like if we're opening the restrooms at Joel Perkins, we'd be able to put
I
the porta
agree.
potty back at.
Right, they're the
Commons.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And those are refreshed every week, aren't they?
Yes.
supposed to be. That's correct. And thanks for mentioning that. That wasn't on my radar, but that would be the same. I would say that would apply to all the rest of the facilities.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Does that mean, so if things open back up and if by chance the governor's declaration of emergency does not extend past June 28th, would ours just be done? Or I'm looking at number 1 for the declaration of emergency, or does it, it remains in effect until we rescind it. So we would visit that. once-
The next
July.
Okay.
July meeting.
Okay,
But the city has the flexibility to change a lot of these things without our directive, like
okay.
opening up the city hall or the parks. That's based on the governor's directive, not.
okay.
Yeah, and I believe the declaration of emergency has a little bit to do with funding trickling down from the feds as well. So it could be very possible that that declaration of emergency gets extended, but we're still able to open a lot of this stuff up.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, so that takes care of 1, 2, 3 gatherings. City, is it-
We have to follow the rules on that.
Yeah, just following the state mandates, there's no change.
everything is going to stay.
Yeah.
Staff vaccination,
That's just keeping us up to date.
okay. Great.
We are providing assistance to restaurants that ask us, what's the new, moving from the high risk recently to the moderate, what's that mean for restaurants? So we copy information for them, help them out.
We're back at high risk still, right?
I think we're down to moderate now.
Today, as of today,
Last, was it today?
I think it
It
was
just keeps
today.
changing.
Today or tomorrow, I think.
That's
something.
Spin the wheel.
Now.
It is.
That's what I wanna know.
We keep up on it, but yes, it is popping around.
Fabulous.
Okay, anything else?
I think we're good to move on to
That's
the
everything on that one.
Great, let's go on. Move on. Okay, Public Works report. How are we doing? Have we, are we promoting from within or are we going to solicit from outside? Because I understand Conrad's leaving.
Conrad, his last day is July 1st, yes. And then we have a very good candidate, our most experienced, our lead, our utility 2 worker, who unless there's an objection, I'm looking at giving him some out-of-class pay through like August to perform as our public works supervisor. How that is done is outlined in our labor agreement. Just the newest one does a particular job of how that might look. So you're looking at a 5% pay differential for our current utility worker 2 to take on those duties and see how that works. In the meantime, backfilling with a laborer. So we're not shorthanded and we see how that goes. And then by the end of August, I will know whether he's the new supervisor or are we going to do an open recruitment. But I think there's enough camaraderie and respect within the department that we need to give this a chance, the promotion.
So do you think you'll have an answer for us by the August meeting?
No, by the end of August.
So it'll be September meeting.
So September, sure. yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, anybody have any public works questions? Oh, I know I have. I was driving up Monroe and I just blew right through a stop sign.
There's Debbie.
It's true. I've been worried about it all week because I went back and I went, oh, shit, because it was a 4-way stop. And the reason being is because I couldn't see it. So we need the public works people as they're driving around, when they see stop signs that need to be
There's some
trimmed
trees
around.
that are starting to hang.
Oh,
too, that are
absolutely. Yeah,
blocking
we
it.
need
Yeah.
to hear about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just kind of went, whoa.
Well, and our guys do notice that, but by all means, if anybody, public or council sees that, let me know.
Yeah.
And there's one on Monroe that's covered by.
Yeah, and,
trees.
it's,
Okay,
and I believe it's Monroe. It's the next one past
14
Madison. Yeah, around
Right,
there.
and there's a chronic growing tree, all trees grow all the time, I guess, but it's every year it has to be trimmed back around. I want to say it's about, I know it's 14th, it might be Monroe. That is
It's whatever the
area.
4-way stop is on that street.
It's the one right
12
before Jefferson.
probably. Yeah.
Yes, it's 12th. It
Okay.
is the
It's that whole
one right
area.
before Jefferson.
No, this is way down to this other side.
Oh, well, there's one up right before Jefferson
Yeah,
too.
there's one
And
there
it's a
too.
4-way stop.
Yeah.
Everybody do a little drive around and look for hidden
Yeah.
stop signs.
So if you can just let them know that they need to keep an eye on that, then
Sure.
it'll help us out.
Okay.
Yes, Sheila?
Yes, I also have a suggestion. So because ODOT is going to reroute traffic from 3rd onto Washington to come up 2nd, there is a large shrub that sticks out a lot past the yellow line, like the no parking line on 3rd. So basically it's really hard to see to get out on 3rd past the shrub that's on the corner of Washington and 3rd. So I think perhaps if we address that, that'd be easier for the change of traffic when ODOT starts rerouting them, because it's a homeowner's shrub that's on the very corner of the street.
The corner of Third and Washington?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, look at that, Sheila. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Preston, I thought I had asked you, you said there weren't gonna be routing traffic through town. There would be no detours through
That
town.
was not the plan.
I don't think they're
So-
necessarily routing it. I think Sheila's probably speaking to that people will naturally reroute.
Oh, I,
themselves.
That's,
okay, I understand. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
they
And
are.
They
They're
definitely
gonna go
know the
every
sites.
which way. you bet.
well, the locals will know where to
Yes,
go.
okay.
You bet.
All right.
You bet.
Thank
The
you.
non-locals will know where to go to.
Yeah,
If
we'll
it's
take
not
them
gonna
all.
be a.
Okay, any other questions about the Public Works reports, or anybody have anything they need to take a look at?
I just wanted to thank our public works people for their help with the cleanup day.
Oh,
That was,
oh, you
they did
bet.
great. They were great.
Well, then our volunteers too. I mean, it was a team effort.
Yeah.
And I think we really found a new home for the cleanup day. It
That was
worked
a great
really well.
spot.
I thought it worked great. We
That
just
was a great spot.
went through.
It just didn't work after it was all done and somebody
Yeah.
dumped their crap there.
And I always thank Dave Larmuth and them for coming in and helping. We couldn't do it without them. You know, they weren't here tonight, but I guess it needs to be said. They underwrite our costs for that quite a bit. And it's just a great partnership.
And I know Preston and I have talked about either larger or different dumpsters or more dumpsters.
I think that those are the largest dumpsters that they have. We will probably
Probably
have
more.
to just get more.
Yeah, wildly popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Neat. Okay, the fire report.
Everything looked good.
Now,
I have a question on that report. Christine might be able to answer it, I don't know, or Preston. Number 3, it says we have a firefighter working 20 hours for the last month. Is that 20 hours a week
Mhm.
for that month? Okay.
So that's part of that, it was a pandemic. Fund.
It's
Emergency
it's the
funding.
last of the CARES Act
Yeah.
funding, basically for this fiscal year. We were able to utilize them part-time for the last couple of months in June.
And then every summer, we have an
intern.
intern that does through the summer for our increased fire season.
Right, that's a full-time
Yeah.
Right,
firefighter
for 40 hours.
Right.
Okay.
So it was
I just
the
wasn't
same
clear.
firefighter that was doing the 20 that'll transition to the 40 through the summer.
It is, you said?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually been the same one they've had for a couple of years now. She's come back.
Okay, the next one is the administrative accounts payable. Do you have anything that you want to talk about the checks and
There was
stuff?
nothing wild and crazy that stood out.
Okay, that's, okay.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And do we have any comment cards for this month?
There was one, it was about code enforcement. So I thought maybe just mentioning it during the code enforcement part, but it was about a dead tree. Was that followed up on?
Yeah.
We always follow up, yes.
That is.
So were you able to, did they give you your address so that you were able to follow up on this?
Yeah, they read
Yes,
back.
yes, we done
Okay,
that,
great.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, now as a code enforcement, now on also on administrative, we talk about your stuff. Do you want to do that? Your stuff, do you want to do that before we do the executive session?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the code enforcement real quick, and then we'll go to Preston, and then we'll go to our executive session.
First, I'd like to say thank you so much for making this spreadsheet much larger and easier to read.
Much better.
Yes.
Much better.
I like the description, noxious vegetation.
That's the weeds.
Was council ready to move forward on the recruitment of a code enforcement officer?
Well,
I support recruitment of a full-time code enforcement officer.
so do I.
I as well.
She does. What about you, Greg?
I think some more discussion needs to be had on I don't know, I'm not even sure how to phrase this. I just think more discussion needs to be had on it. I'll say that for now. I would vote, I would not be for going out and recruiting at this point. I think we need to set some guidelines and, what can be enforced and what should be enforced, and we should set priorities.
Well, we can do all, we
you
can
know.
do all that while we're hiring somebody. We don't need to wait for that. I mean, that could take us 2 months.
My hesitation is that in the past, it's all gone through Preston and then he has made the decision. This gets enforced and this doesn't get enforced. And so, I would like to see this code enforcement officer have more leeway and not necessarily need to, take a yes or a no from Preston in order to go out and enforce something. So.
Well, Preston, did you have any idea of this guy being a separate employee and somebody that can make his own decisions?
Well, sure.
With your, just a direction from
Well,
you?
yeah, sure, there is. With initiative and all of that, you bet. And somebody that knows what they're doing doesn't need to check in as much. But there's never been any confusion in my mind what priorities there are. I think the problems we've had over the last few months is that there's been a lot of concern about cars in the right of way. And that is pretty much handled by our deputies when they can get to it. That's not a priority for our code enforcement officer. Where he can assist, great, but that's not going to be, with somebody that's more adept, they can assist more. But I'm not changing the priorities of our deputies. If council wants to do that, they can. But deputies deliver tickets, sometimes they deliver warnings, sometimes they take initiative. But I rely on them to deal with cars in the right of way.
Mhm.
Our code enforcement has tracked down a lot of things like RVs and obviously cars on private property, but when it comes to the right of way, it's a little different. So there's never been any confusion or priority concerns in my mind about what a code enforcement officer does. And I think council needs to talk about that if there are concerns.
Lee would like to say something.
Yeah, so I think where I stand here, just to I think I'm kind of balanced between everybody here is, I understand where Greg's coming from with his concerns. I would like to see us start the hiring process as soon as we can. So if there is a great candidate out there, we don't miss him to another job. But I do think council should probably sit down and talk about code enforcement and talk about what we would like to see as priorities for enforcement based on the feedback we're hearing from the constituents in the city, and kind of get that laid out. And I think these things can happen simultaneously.
I agree. I agree.
So Deputy Elliott, can I ask you a question? Hearing that we're kind of pushing the right of way to the deputies that serve our town, is that the optimal model, or is that kind of a temporary?
I would say that it's whatever the council's priority is. The deputies will certainly go out and enforce whatever ordinances the city has enacted. Because every city that we serve, and we have county ordinances that cover the rural areas as well. So it's really just a matter of what the council identifies as a priority for the city, and then making sure that the language of the ordinance is current and enforceable. Okay.
Because I agree that we don't want to be saying you need to respond to a code enforcement officer over other things, but I think we can say we can have two priorities that you respond to things as you need to, but when you're not, and when you're patrolling or whatnot, that you can also make that a priority to get those taken care of. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going against kind of what the optimal usage of our deputies was going forward.
I agree with Lee. I think that we should move forward on the hiring of it, and then develop
Mhm.
what we feel the code enforcement officer should be doing and what he should be enforcing and stuff like that in the next couple, I mean, we're not gonna hire this guy tomorrow.
It takes time.
It takes time to find the right person. I mean, we'll be lucky if we find one by the 1st of July. You know, by that time in this, and maybe this next meeting, we can spend some time, well, August, July is a little tough, but we can figure out a way to make up some priorities and stuff and how we want to design it.
I do want to reiterate that I think most of council agrees, we're looking for somebody who has some experience and can hit the ground running. You know, if we can find somebody like that, I think that's going to be the best solution to the problems we've experienced the last few months.
Well, I agree with that because of the fact that, you know, Preston has been having to train this person, which takes a lot of his time when he needs to be working on more important things. And then the code enforcement officer is kind of sitting there going, what do I do, you know?
Yeah.
So somebody that has some experience would be the best for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we direct him to start that process?
Yes.
Yes.
Lee
I think so.
and Sheila?
I think so, but I'd also like to move forward with reviewing some of the codes that the officer was talking about earlier so that we can do two things also. List the priorities from the citizens and the council, as well as see where there is issues in our code and our enforcement ordinances so that we can better enforce the codes or bring the codes up to date so that we're doing everything to make it as easy as possible for the person we're hiring.
Mhm. Okay,
Basically spend the money as efficiently as possible. Just be efficient on all the aspects. We know that there's issues in the code. We know there's an issue with priorities and who should be doing what. And like Marie said, very effectively, the officers should not have to do small code enforcement. If we're spending this kind of money, we need to have a code enforcement officer that can take care of the majority of those things.
okay, so we're directing Preston to start that process.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, full-time.
full-time.
Full-time experienced.
Okay, so that takes care of the code enforcement. Now we're at the administrative.
So, sorry, I have one thing to
I'm
say
sorry.
about code enforcement, and this came up on social media, and I agree wholeheartedly with what was said. So yes, Lafayette has a lot of code enforcement issues. You know, it's caused a lot of tensions. We are also all living in the same small community, and there's big differences between houses that have had problems for years and things that come up, you know, periodically, where people want to be compliant, but maybe have limitations. So
Sure.
I would like to see both a hard hand in pushing and saying that, yes, we do need to enforce this, but a soft hand in, you know, reaching out and saying, do you need help? A number of community members have said they would be willing to go help somebody mow their grass if needed. So that we're not taking our frustrations out on those that, you know, we need to be dealing with a soft hand. So
Excellent.
we can continue moving forward, but being civil and trying to foster the community.
No, you're absolutely right. We need to still, the city still needs to accomplish something, but it still needs to have a heart.
Yeah, and it's a great way to bring people together and say,
Exactly.
hey, you need help mowing your grass, you know?
Maybe by doing that, the code enforcement officer will develop a group of volunteers like the people that volunteered for the graffiti stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Preston.
One thing, Your Honor, the ODOT project is coming at us. Starting next week, we're gonna be down to one lane for like 4 months. Wow. Well, and it's,
Well, I'm gonna be going the other way.
we will be assisting them in removing cars for this weekend. because to prepare for the contractor coming in Monday morning. There's a lot of notice for people coming into the city from 6 different directions, I guess, about the work that's going to be done. We've had it up on a reader board for over a week for the people, both sides of the reader board. But real tough traffic situation for a few days, just like before when they rerouted, through the city. They were doing Highway 18 stuff. It took a couple of days to figure out another route, and we're going to run through that. We're gonna have to deal with that, initial Carmageddon kind of thing. But it is coming at us, and it's going to be from Jefferson Street to the west. 4 weeks doing the south side, get all that done, and then 4 weeks on the north side, and then they move from Jefferson Street to the east. 4 weeks on the south side, 4 weeks on the north side. 1 lane of traffic, plenty of flaggers in all hours that are needed. It might, for those folks that just want to cross, like on Madison, having a flagger there, like last time, worked out so nice, so wonderful.
Will they have a flagger there again this week?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so concerns that you hear of or ideas you have to make it better, let me know. But there is no official rerouting of traffic within the city. Could that be done later? Maybe, but there's plenty of notice for people coming into the city from all directions.
Can I ask you a question, Preston?
Sure.
So we're gonna have construction 1 lane along there. We've also got the subdivision, a lot of work going on. I've noticed, I live on 5th, and I noticed with especially the fire station, there was a lot of commercial, dump trucks and other kind of stuff. Is there anything the city can do to say, hey, these big commercial vehicles need to stay on the main paths, or it tears up our streets, and then we're responsible for that as well. And
Correct.
It's inconvenient for them to wait another couple minutes to go with the flag, but I think looking into something like that might be prudent.
Well, technically there are some trucks that shouldn't be going through town at all. They're not following the truck routes, but I'm not sure what we can do. Do you think it's important to enforce some overweight trucks that should be on 99? Right now, we're just kind of struggling to get through. The folks at Meadowbrook know about the situation. Troy Hallworth knows when he does his work, he's going to have to deal with all that and try and work around it the best they can. Find another route or timing and everything. But bigger trucks should follow the truck routes, whether it's on 99 or not. Technically they should. Whether there's construction or not, you follow the truck routes. I don't know in particular if what trucks at Meadowbrook might actually fall under that. Dump trucks, definitely. Water trucks or people bringing supply, that might be different, but what I can do, Jim, is talk to the Meadowbrook folks and make sure that those heavy trucks stay on 99.
Okay.
And I think that's a good idea,
Yeah.
We know about those. Troy won't need to go on 99 much, he's going right here,
Right.
But when I will mention it to Troy also.
Okay.
The paving machines and all, and dump trucks should all be very minimal on our residential streets.
Okay, and it's going to be a long process, so just know it's on my radar. I'll be paying attention in front of my house, and if it becomes a problem, then I can address it again. But I appreciate you talking to them and doing what you can.
You bet.
Can you put some A-frame signs out that say trucks not to use these streets or something? Off a bridge? Is it, I mean, I don't know if that, I don't know if that's feasible or not.
I'd rather have a cop writing them a ticket, you
Okay.
know, but,
Okay,
you know, they're supposed to be responsible truck drivers, they should know. But some of our
you
residents.
obviously don't know truck drivers.
Well, no, I don't, but am I speaking out of turn there, Sam? I mean, basically, you know, those folks that need to follow the truck routes, the constructions, they're not being rerouted, they need to stand in line and go through, just like everybody else, yeah. So,
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
I got a request from a resident, a newer resident up on Johns Landing Road, Lawton City Water. And offered to meet with them and go through all of the city's policies and what we went through before, and the fact that they're not in our UGB and we're not planning for water up there, and basically unless the whole group up there wants to get together and formulate a plan, we have no ability to assist with anyone individually, you know. For the new counselors, you don't, that's an old issue, but John Landing's road was basically developed with inadequate water sources, and those folks don't have good wells up there. And so the city of Lafayette has tried to help in that. And so they got a lot of questions and nice people, and every so often they hear the neighbors, they move it, and then they come see me, you know. So if anything comes out of that, you know, I'll let you know. But there has been a lot of new folks moved into Johns Landing Road over the last few years. There really has.
Well, if I remember correctly, when they came to us last time, they didn't want to pay for the infrastructure that was necessary.
They just
to
wanted the
get-
water
They just wanted the water.
magically appear.
Yeah,
Well, they did want to pay, but they didn't want to pay what it cost.
right.
And well, there you go. You know, you can't, there's other conditions that they didn't like either, but I laid those out from day one. Before council even said, look at explore an option. And those conditions have not changed. So they're in a real tough situation there, but over time, there will be enough people that will actually want to work together and get water up there. The American Rescue Plan Act, who knows where that's going right now? Congress is trying to pull back some money and this and that, but I think we're fairly certain we're going to get some this year. We're not sure how much, but when and it should be easy through the state. They're working out those details now. So when we know what we're going to get, how it's going to work, we'll come back to council with a budget, a supplemental budget where you can add in those monies like we did last year, add them in and a grant out. It's a in and out on the budget. A pass through, correct. And how much discretion the council will actually have on spending that, it's not sure yet. The league is really working hard to define those things. It's kind of still unclear about utility, water and sewer, that sort of thing. But it's all good news. If they rely on us to spend it well, I'm sure we'll do a great job. So that's coming your way when we know. We talked about this code enforcement position, the public works supervisor position. We talked about the fire training officer position. We also have our administrative assistant position. And we have already interviewed one person. We're looking at trying to get assistance through Express as soon as possible. Preparing for opening up. It's a lot of work on this office, and it's time to get that position filled. So that's in the works. And it was actually yesterday, we had our first person come in and interview for that. And that's all I had, Your Honor.
Well, that's great.
I'm sorry, Preston, can you speak a little bit to the upcoming July agenda? Just a heads up of things that might be on it.
Well, I do have some notes. We've got requests for a number of things. We hope to have an ordinance dealing with park acquisition, depending on what the council directs or decide or directs in executive session tonight. We would potentially have an ordinance talking about a parks, a real property purchase for parks. And that can be modified again in August, have a public hearing for final adoption, but that could be on there based on what council directs in executive session tonight. We've got the check signing authority. We've got an update now with our mayor. We've got an award of contract. We're looking at one of our water projects. This is our main line meters and dechlor station. So we're looking at awarding that next month, possibly even a change order to get some other stuff done on an existing contract. So that could also be on there. We've got discussion items potentially on an urban renewal district proposal from our consultant to implement a URD. That would be from Elaine, the consultant that we had do the feasibility study. So you'd be considering that.
Now, at that, are you talking about hiring the consultant to help us do that? Or are you
Correct.
saying, go ahead and hire and okay to get started?
At this point, it would just be a discussion on the proposal
Okay,
and come back in August. If you want that, you decide in August.
okay.
And I mean, the alternative is to solicit proposals from other firms. That would be the alternative. We've got a discussion item regarding performance measures for the city administrator and a discussion item on ADUs. The pending ordinance that we have before the planning commission, which will council can discuss again. And there could be more or less. I mean, that's just sort of what we're looking at for July.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's perfect. Okay. So we're gonna have a good time in July. Okay, so that brings us to our committee reports. We don't have any committees for reports. Or do we have a committee I don't know about?
No.
Okay.
No.
Counselor reports. Did any counselors have any special reports?
I'll give a quick update. Yesterday, I spoke to the chair of the Parkway Committee regarding my genius idea to volunteer for that. So next week, I believe I'll be meeting with them at 7 a.m.
That's the extension, is that right? Correct?
Correct. Yeah. The only
Bypass.
right. The only thing we're waiting on is I did not know this. Apparently, I have to be confirmed by the county commissioners to be on that committee. So we're just waiting for that to go through at this point.
Okay, excellent. Well, good luck.
Congratulations, Lee.
Congratulations.
That's great.
To be fair, I'm not confirmed for that committee yet, but I appreciate the premature congratulations.
You have, I'm sure.
Well, do you have any ghosts in your closet that would cause it?
Past the bar.
Good looking
I feel like you're well vetted.
Good, excellent. That should be an exciting committee to be involved with.
Yeah.
Okay, mayor's reports. Unfortunately, I don't have any unless Christine
I
has.
do
any.
not. I'm good.
The only thing that I would like to say is I would like to thank Christine for doing such a good job being the acting mayor for all of these months. I know it was tough, you know, hearing things on social media and different things but I really think that she deserves a pat on the back for her commitment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I don't want to do that again. It's not like that.
Okay, so we're ready for executive session. Okay.
Did I give you the?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's on
just-
your-
Okay.
Okay. The Lafayette City Council will now meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions and to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room. No formal decision will be made in the executive session. At the close of the executive session, the YouTube stream will not be restarted.